You're watching an Inauguration Day special here on Arise News. Now, as President-elect Bola Tinubu sets his sight on the inauguration today, former President Goodluck Jonathan is urging reforms in the electoral system that would leave a lasting impact on Nigeria's democratic credentials. Mr. Jonathan was speaking in an exclusive interview with Arise News. Take a listen.
We're inaugurating the President-elect Ahmed Bola Tinubu and the Vice President-elect Senator Shetima. Their own mood is slightly different because President Buhari has graciously served 8 years. God has helped him serve 8 years. And is handing over, not to another political party, but is handing over to his own political party. So the circumstances presently is quite different. But I know the mood of the country generally is because of the issues bordering on the elections. So some people are happy, some people are sad, so all kinds of sentiments and feelings. In my own time, especially the 2015 election, my ministers, my senior officers, people who worked with me, there was this fear that this one that we've lost the election, what will be our fate? Will the new government just throw all of us into jail without giving us even fair hearing? Because government is next to God and decide to do anything. That fear was in the minds of people. Some people feel, could I even run away? Should I stay in the country? But to them, that will not be much of a problem because it's the same party that is taking over. So the tension we faced then, the Buhari's team may not face the same tension. Yes, some few people may have some issues that bother them, but on the average, they will not have that kind of feeling. But it used to be tense, really. And by this time, then of course already I've considered defeat to the president. So that was completely over. And I knew why I considered defeat, because I was more interested in the country than myself, which I advise every politician to be more interested in the country than themselves. Without a country, there will be no president. So I know it used to be tense.
And how do we ensure that Nigeria comes out of the current electoral controversy through reforms that will help grow the country's democracy?
The problem we have is the electoral management body, INEC, and the security. And I used to give an example. If two soccer teams are playing and the referee decide to look the other way, they will enjoy themselves. If people are contesting for elections, should expect that it's like a soccer game. Everybody wants to win. And you must not allow it. The electoral management bodies share more than 60% of the blame.
All right, for more, we're joined in the studio by Arise News analyst, Dr. Constance Ikokwu. Thank you so much for joining us. And your patriotic self is looking so beautiful this morning, turning out in green. He has a green tie.
No,
and I'm looking like the...
No. All thanks to my crystal ball. I had to look, I think, show me what Dr. Constance is going to put on.
It was a coincidence, by the way. It wasn't planned.
It wasn't planned. Okay, but this one worked.
Yes,
all right.
It did.
Thank you so much for joining us. And happy May 29 Inauguration Day. I mean, very much in order. You just listened to former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan there, dropping some words of wisdom for leadership in Nigeria. I know it's a celebratory day. We will definitely come to the reason for this day, of course, the inauguration of the incoming President, Bola Tinubu. But let's talk about be more interested in the country and not yourselves. That's GEJ speaking to Nigeria's leaders there. There's no better time to be hearing this, is there?
Yes, words of wisdom indeed. And he has the credentials to say this because in 2015, he conducted an election and he left the seat when the ovation was loudest. He could have decided to hang on. He could have decided, like many other presidents in the African continent, to try to extend his tenure. But when it was time, he quietly left the seat and allowed the next person to occupy. So what President Goodluck Jonathan, former President Goodluck Jonathan has said is very important. If you do not have a country, then you won't have a president. So it's more important to fix the country. It's more important to follow the rules. He talks about reforms, electoral reforms.
Right.
That is critical. You say you're practicing a democracy. Are you really practicing a democracy? Would you call this a democracy? When you look at the mood of the nation now, yes, we are eventually having a swearing-in ceremony today. But when you pay attention and observe closely, you will be able to identify at least 4 different shades of opinion or 4 different states of mind. The first group, I would say, is the group that is triumphant, that they have taken power at all costs. And there is a little bit of restraint, because they know that the circumstances that led up to today was a little bit complex and difficult. And then you have the group 2, who are the ones that are probably scandalized and ashamed that this is where we are in the country today. They feel like things have not gone as planned, but they think that, you know, the nation is worth fighting for, so we will continue to fight for our dear country. And then there's a third group that they want out. They've almost given up and want nothing to do with this country. And then finally, I would say the group 4 is those that are totally helpless, have, you know, these are the group that they probably cannot escape Nigeria. They're only praying to God for a miracle, for a turnaround. So here you have it. Different groups of people. There's going to be a swearing in, but I think there's a lot to do after this swearing in ceremony.
Right. Of course, we heard from the incoming Vice President-elect, of course, Kashim Shettima, who said, look, this administration is going to hit the ground running. And the question has been posed as to what complexion, you know, the next administration would have in terms of its cabinet, and what a challenge it would be for Tinubu to pick his, you know, cabinet members, ministers, who actually will help him deliver on the job, which he says, look, I understand what the challenges are for Nigeria. I chose this job, you've given it to me, and I'm going to deliver. I promise you, I will not fail you. I will not, you know, disappoint Nigerians.
Yes, he sounded very confident, asking us essentially to hold him accountable, saying we are going to do this. I've listened to other speakers throughout the morning, and there's a lot of, yes, he was a former governor for 8 years. He has presided over a very difficult state, Lagos State, the most popular state in the country. Well, there's also a lot of resources in Lagos State. Now you've come to the center. It's much more complex. Nigeria is bigger, much bigger than Lagos State. So there's more that will be expected of him, especially in terms of unity. So everybody has been talking about renewed hope. He wants the hope of the country to be renewed. This has to be anchored on something. If you do not have a united nation, if you do not have a nation that has a common vision, that is moving towards the same direction, I don't know how you're going to work on that renewed hope. So we'll have to look. Yes, he needs a competent cabinet. He said he'll hit the ground running. That is what people are looking to see, that he hits the ground running. He has to have different shades of technocrats, of people who have been in government before, of people who are new, that will bring something new and refreshing to the government. Because at this point in a nation, we all see that we have economic problems, we have security problems, we have educational problems. His hands are going to be full. So we will watch and see what he's able to do within the next 4 years at least, which is the mandate that has been given to him.
Yeah, now quickly before I let you off, I was going to ask you to speak to us about the mood of the nation at the moment.
The mood of the nation, like I started with explaining that there are different groups of people. Some people didn't see this day coming. They thought that it wouldn't happen. There have been different theories. Oh, there will be a transition government, the military maestro. So many things have been said. Why? Because the process leading to the election and the actual elections were not what people expected. You know, there were manipulations here and there at the governorship level, at the presidential level. Of course, the election is still in court. Their results are being contested. Again, that process is very important to leading up to the presidency. You have to have a clean process. If you want to have a country, President Goodluck Jonathan talked about it, if you want to have a country, there has to be rules and people need to abide by the rules. For instance, you know, in secondary school, when we take the exams, WAEC, JAMB, you know, if you cheat, you will be, you'll be chucked out, you'll be expelled.
Right.
In secondary school as well, when you have your exams, when you cheat, you're shown the door.
No
but when it comes to our politics, we begin to give excuses. We begin to say, oh no, we can do this. Oh, it's not right. What kind of country are you building? What kind of society are you building? If you make it right that cheating should be accepted, then it's a problem. So you decide what kind of nation you want to build. A nation based on standards, or a nation that is not based on standards? A nation based on morality, or a nation that is not based on morality?
Yeah, but the question would be, before we wrap, I mean, who sets the standards? We had Felix Moka, the national spokesperson of the APC, and he, put it back at the doorstep of the people. He's saying, look, if the people insist on the barest minimum and say, look, this is the lowest we can go in terms of what we expect of our leadership, then the leadership will, follow suit and, abide by those rules. But then again, who sets the standards, really? That's the question. Is it the leadership who should be seeing way ahead of the people, or the people themselves?
Both. There is a problem of followership. There is a problem of leadership. When the followers have decided to push to make a way for themselves, as in this election, they are beaten back by entrenched interests. So yes, the leaders should set the standards. The so-called elites. In every society, there are custodians of the country, there are custodians of culture, of traditions, of the kind of system of government you decide to pick. The elites in Nigeria have been, I think, not what people are expecting. But like I said, the different groups of people, there are people that think Nigeria is worth fighting for. So after this election, or after this inauguration, they will continue to hold the leaders to account.
Well, Dr. Constance Ikokwu, a good place for us to leave it. Many thanks for your time as always.
Thank you.
All right, you're watching an Inauguration Day special on Arise News. Follow us on Twitter at Arise TV. We're streaming live on arise.tv. I am Ngozi Alebu.
And I'm Sulaiman. Many thanks for watching.